quiz, hotshot.
There's a bomb on a bus. If it drops below 50, it blows up. What do you do?
The game began with the ultimate test.
Where's Jack? Where do you think?
Now,
Stay on or get off.
Get off.
This is much better.
he's the only solution.
On quiz, you have a hair trigger aimed at your head. What do you do?
Keanu Reeves,
What do you do?
Speed.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Not Content Podcast on the From the Q YouTube and podcast channel. My name is Karim Kusan. As always, you can find all of our social media links in the write-up or the discussion below on YouTube. You can also make sure to leave a 4 or 5-star review here on Apple, Spotify, and like this if you are on YouTube. Please subscribe. Support all of the work that Brian and I are doing here at the Non-Content Podcast on, again, From the Q Podcasting Network. Brian, this has been a journey just to come together and actually record this episode. But I promise you, Brian, I have not been in a bus driving at 50 miles per hour and having to keep that bus above that amount just to make sure the bus doesn't blow up.
Pop quiz, hot shot. You got 3 movie premises, and you've never written a full script before, and you're trying to sell your first script. So what do? Combine them into one script. Because this literally is like each act is a different action movie. I swear to God. And I didn't notice it until like much later on. But it just feels like it's like its own complete trilogy within the 2-hour movie. I swear to God, because the first act is an elevator heist movie, clearly, right? But it's shot so well that first 20 minutes, right? So it's almost as if you could have made its own movie out of the first 20 minutes. And then you get to Act 2, which is the bus, which everyone knows the whole thing about speed, right? The 50 miles an hour, don't slow down. Keanu Reeves going crazy on that convertible and trying to get on the bus. Just incredible sequence that was. And then the third act is like a kidnapping where you got the hostage tied to a train with a dead conductor, and you don't have the key to the the handcuffs, man. So that's a whole other action movie premise right there. So it feels like writer Graham Yost, who only wrote TV at this point. This was his first movie. Seems like he was trying to sell it no matter what. Like he was going for broke, so to speak. And I respect that. But it just feels like now, because of that, this is why we get a shitty Speed 2, because he put all his good stuff in the first movie. Clearly.
But here's the thing. Graham Yost is a legendary television writer. I mean, for Justified alone, that basically puts him in the Television Hall of Fame. But he also godfathered The Americans, which is also regarded as one of the greatest television shows of all time as well. So Graham Yost is such an important name. Joss Whedon did a look over of this script as well. This is like he had a reputation for being a script doctor in the 90s, early 2000s. This is one of the movies that he apparently did a run through, so to speak. And I think it shows. I mean, that you would not. It's tough to say that an action movie has a really good script, but my God, just the way that this is all planned out, it feels so meticulous. It's so well shot. And look, I understand where John McTiernan is coming from. He comes out of this and he's like, I don't want to do like a Die Hard knockoff. He did Die Hard 1, he did Die Hard 3. He's coming off of Hunt for Red October. Like he was on a really incredible run of movies, not to mention Predator as well. But I mean, if he does this just feels like kind of the icing on the cake for his career. But instead, it is John Bont, and he does a really good job too. He is the cinematographer for The Hunt for Red October as well as Die Hard. And look, John Bont is somebody who, in terms of his cinematography, like he should be regarded as one of the best cinematographers of all time because of just what he's able to do. You look at his career in the movies I mentioned, plus movies like Cujo and Basic Instinct. Like the things that those movies are known for is just how they look. The unfortunate issue is that once you get past this, it gets a little rougher. He really only has 2 other movies since Speed 1 in terms of his direction, the first of which is Speed 2. Cruise Control, which we will not discuss very much on this show, as well as The Haunting and Lara Croft Tomb Raider. So there's actually 3 movies, kind of a mixed bag at best. But in terms of this movie, I mean, it just shows, like, you give him this script and you're talking about something really, really incredible. And not to mention, Brian, also very fittingly, he was the director for Twister as well. Twister has a sequel coming out in just the end of the month, so very good timing on this.
Yeah, and I know we were kind of discussing it at some point to review Twister because I've never seen it. Maybe for a July slotted date, but
I cannot believe you have never seen Twister. This
I've
is
seen parts of it.
To me.
I know, but the thing is, it's not a 30th anniversary. It'd be a 32-year anniversary, and that doesn't sound cool as 30 or 35. We know the rule with that, so we'll discuss it. It's a maybe. It's a possibility.
It'll be the 28th anniversary. It came out in June, or I'm sorry, it came out in July.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound nearly as good. It doesn't sound nearly as good as 30 or 35, but it's possible because I know a lot of my friends have just looked at me and stared at me when I tell them this, that I've never seen Twister. I guess it was more iconic of a movie than I thought because like I knew it was out, but I just had no interest in it. I was more interested in like Independence Day, Jurassic Park 2, those kind of movies. So I don't know, but it just never appealed to me. But I'm just shocked that they made a sequel. So, but I guess that just kind of shows you the legacy of John de Bont because. I mean, I guess this and back to back with Speed is like, I mean, if you have a legacy, that's kind of like your legacy to like rest your head on, kind of, so to speak. Like, I kind of did like actually The Haunting, but, not a lot of people remember that anyway. And it was just kind of like a failure, but I do remember having a good time. But that's when I wasn't so akin to like a good horror movie. Maybe I just was, having fun at the movie theater, so to speak. But in this case, Speed, like I actually saw this in a double feature like 5-10 years ago. And it's funny because on the poster it says "Get ready for Rush Hour," and the second movie in the double bill was Rush Hour, so that was fucking cool. It really goes together well with the Rush Hour with the whole LA scene and everything. I mean, there's some crazy what the hell kind of moments in this movie. Obviously, like, I mean, LA has a certain limit to their freeways. I don't think there's an open freeway like that just goes and goes. That's unbuilt and unfinished. I could be wrong. But man, that just seems like a really extended freeway, just, kind of preposterous, but that's, it's Hollywood film magic. So I kind of accepted that. The other thing that kind of mixes things or kind of messes with my head a little bit is that at this time, I was taking the public bus with like my aunts when I was staying with her in the summertime in LA. Buses look nothing like this in LA. It's got this distinct look that even today has like remnants of that look in the modern bus look. So I was always kind of thrown off by that. I was just kind of like, why does this bus look like it's from like the 60s or the 70s or it's like from New York or something? It just didn't vibe. But, you actually get a better picture of the subway. Like the subway actually still looks the same today, which sounds crazy, but that just shows you how much LA doesn't improve their infrastructure. Because I swear to God, I look at those seats in the subway sequence at the end and I'm like, dude, I swear to God, those are the same seats today and they just barely clean them. And that's a whole other discussion for the subway system in LA right now because it's a little hectic with all the, the homeless and stuff. But still, like, just kind of crazy to see that LA doesn't really improve their shit. But man, this movie is so fun.
This is what Roger Rabbit taught us, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's another possible discussion later on in the year. I've been kind of putting that on the back burner because, also got that on an anniversary Blu-ray sitting there, and it's a good quality. So, but yeah, I also watched this on 4K. Awesome quality, worth getting totally. I think mine is a bundle with like a digital code and the Blu-ray. So, highly recommend checking that out. I got it at Best Buy before Best Buy stopped selling their movies. But yeah, I mean, this movie is so entertaining. It's under 2 hours. And that's really key because I feel like you go past that point, it just overstays its welcome. And I don't think
it's the kind of movie that would be 2.5 hours now, and you'd be like, just cut 30 minutes out of this movie. This is the idealized version because, as you mentioned, it's 3 movies in one, but it moves so well. I mean, the pacing of this movie is unbelievable, and I think you not only have to give credit to Jean Bont, but you also have to give credit to the editing team as well. And anytime you can get an editor to really just go in there and cut a movie to be under 2 hours, and it's John Wright is the editor of this movie, also edited The Hunt for Red October, The Running Man, Funny enough, also Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. But a lot of these movies that he has edited are under 2 hours. And look, there is a magic to a movie that is under 2 hours that I don't think we fully appreciate because, especially when you get on the blockbuster level, so many of them are 220, 230. This movie being under 2 hours, it's perfect. This movie should if it's 1 minute over 2 hours, then I think it's a problem.
Shout out to Bad Boys 4 for being an hour and 55 minutes. We talked about that before we were on air, and we both really enjoyed that movie. And that kind of fits that bill of what an action movie should be right now. I think it was a perfect length for what I was going in for. In this case, it just makes sense because I think I mean, obviously it's a Die Hard clone, but if you kind of get past that, you're just sucked in because I think the action sequence at the beginning is so good that it sucks you in. And then it kind of takes you on this journey because the bad guy gets away and you got this, the mysterious bomb and then the explosion at the beginning of the first bus. There's a lot of intrigue that I think the script gets done right. And then, depending even on the casting, I think even if Keanu Reeves wasn't in this, I think it would still be a success. Depending on the level of success, I don't know, but I still think it would still be a good movie because the script is so well structured that a lot of the editing really helps as well, especially the second act when you're going back and forth between Jeff Daniels as Harry, which is crazy, doing the background on Dennis Hopper's character, trying to figure out where he's from and the gold watch, and it's almost as if like this cat and mouse game is going on in the background of this high octane movie, which is really cool. So you got that going on for it. And just a lot of the intrigue and the little clues I love. Whenever they do the clues in movies and stuff like this, especially the Wildcat comment, I thought it was always the one that sticks out. And like, why does he call her Wildcat until the end of the movie, where you realize, oh, he's watching them. So that was a really cool twist, and the way they kind of use the action sequences to. I mean, they just don't even look CGI at this point in this movie, right? It's all practical. It's a $35 million budget, which is like $100 million today, but still, like, they had no CGI, and it just looks incredible. It's really like
again, this is the movie. It would cost 180 to 200 million dollars these days, and it would not look nearly as good. That's the other part. There would be parts where you would clearly see that there's CGI elements, and it wouldn't look as good. Like, this movie looks really, really good. I mean, just the way that you shoot that Los Angeles daylight and the sun feels simultaneously punishing, but also like illuminating. I just love the way that so many directors have used the Los Angeles sun, and I think in this case especially, it works out really, really well. And the fascinating thing is, you mentioned the second act. The second act is the essence of the movie. That's the speed part of the movie. And I would be very curious, like, as they were editing this movie, like, you want to go basically from the first to the third act as quickly as possible. In most movies, like, you want to get to the climax. But in this case, the name of the movie is Speed, and you have to stay on that bus for a good amount of time. So I'd be very, very curious to know, especially if they went in with this mandate of, okay, we have to keep this movie under 2 hours. Like, how are we going to negotiate all of that? And the push and pull of, like, how much of the bus stuff do you leave in? How much do you take out? Because, again, to me, the essence of the movie is the bus material. And the other thing is that when it comes to, like, being a Die Hard knockoff, if you do it well, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't really matter if you are executing in the same way as a Die Hard, then it's fine. Like, I don't care if the movie, like, that's the other thing about a movie like Heat also. I mean, The Dark Knight is kind of a Heat ripoff, but it's so well done, like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just really, really good. And that's how I feel about any movie that is kind of a knockoff of another movie. If it's well executed, if it's well done, if it puts its own spin on things, then I will be fine with it. And in this case, yes, I mean, you have a lot of the DNA because of, John de Bont, but I mean, this movie definitely has a very distinct feel. Dennis Hopper is a very different villain than Alan Rickman, and I think that helps a lot. But you've also got a little bit more emphasis of the side characters, like the thing about Die Hard is that yes, you got some of the interplay with him and Reginald Val Johnson, but really it is Bruce Willis by himself. This movie, a lot of what works about it is the chemistry between Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. And I mean, it's amazing to me that they actually haven't done more movies together. And like the chemistry is just off the charts. And they have basically become two of our most beloved stars, and also two of the stars that just don't age. And it is remarkable to me that somebody thought that not bringing Keanu Reeves back for Speed 2 was a good idea. Like you could actually do Speed 2 without Keanu Reeves, because part of what makes Speed 1 so good is the chemistry between the two leads.
Yeah, I've seen The Lake House from 2006, and I know that's a cheesy thing to say, but God help me, did I enjoy that movie too. I don't know what it was. It's the stupidest concept for a romance movie, and it's such a Hallmark movie that I was shocked that both actors did it at the time, and it was actually entertaining. So I recommend it. So they do have chemistry together. I can't help it. Even in a cheesy romance movie from 2006 with really weird fantasy elements, but still, like, I can imagine Halle Berry in the role because she was originally cast, and she's gone on record saying she wished she took the role instead. And I think she ended up doing Flintstones or something, which, also was competing this week in the box office with Speed when it came out. So, which I saw in theaters. But yeah, just interesting casting, because I can actually picture that as well. I think she would have brought more intensity to the role. But I don't know, because history shows that Sandra Bullock, this movie kind of launched her career pretty much, and I really enjoy her in Miss Congeniality, and she's great in all her other roles since then. I think she's grown in each role since then, and totally deserving of an Oscar and all that kind of thing. So it was cool. It's cool to see her evolution of her career from this movie, and I guess you can argue the Net as well, but I've never seen the Net, and I don't think the Net nearly has the cultural impact that Speed does, obviously. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. But Dennis Hopper in this movie, I'm so glad that, because if you've seen Blue Velvet, and I never saw Blue Velvet until after I saw Speed, but if you saw Blue Velvet before this, and you were kind of hesitant on Speed, I can easily see someone being like, oh no, like he might go over the top, unhinged in this, right? But he doesn't. He holds it like really kind of steady. He has some kind of like weird quirks, but he's not exactly crazy. He's kind of like a well thought out sociopath, which is kind of the difference between the insanity that he was playing in Blue Velvet. So that's kind of the difference I see there. But I think he nails it well, because he's got this balance of this kind of like retired cop that wants revenge, doesn't care that he's killing people for it. He just wants the money. And I guess he's like a different kind of cat. And, he's smart. And it's really interesting in that, he's much older too, so you're not going to get a fight much between the two. But when they do fight, I was kind of shocked that the old man was holding his own, considering that he's got half a hand. So yeah, that was a really fun, like, also, like, I guess that was also part CGI as well. But I mean, it's very hard to tell when they're fighting on the top of that train. But still, it looks incredible. And when even he loses his head, cute, insert action hero one-liner right there. And then he loses his head, and it's just like, I'm taller. That was fun. But it was cool to see in a PG-13 movie someone like get decapitated like that, and actually showed it from a distance. But it was still cool.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing that I really like. The movie just feels really, really cool, and it just feels like it's operating at this level that so many movies of that time, action movies, are not really operating at. I mean, yes, you got your Arnold Schwarzeneggers, your Sylvester Stallones, but this is just something completely different. And yes, Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock are really important they're important cogs in the machine, but the bus and just those surrounding elements and just the movement, I mean, those are the things that you're really there for in terms of this movie. It's really unfortunate. Like this is the 30th anniversary, and I really wish that this was kind of getting some of the fanfare that some of the other anniversaries have gotten with big releases. Like there's even a South Park sing along that's going in theaters. I kind of wish that this was getting as much, if not a bigger deal, because I mean this movie was really successful for its time. I think it was really influential as well. And I think it's also, again, it's an important movie in Keanu Reeves' career. I think that especially coming off some of the movies in the late 80s, early 90s, some of his less great work, but like this was definitely definitely an interesting point in his career. And especially for Sandra Bullock. I mean, this really launched her into the stratosphere to where she would be one of the biggest stars of for the next 20 to 30 years, really. And it starts here, and that is a lot of what I have to say about this movie. Um, what else? What else can we say about this? We got to talk about Jeff Daniels a little bit more, right? Because I know that this is
Well, I mean, I was
important
going to ask you, do you
us.
like him in this more than Dumb and Dumber? Because I certainly have a clear answer because I don't like Dumb and Dumber at all. So I much prefer him in this. So,
And
but
our conversation about because we will be doing something very special because Jim Carrey, like, yes, 1994, this is the 30th anniversary of Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber. Regardless of what you think of the quality of those movies, that is as good of a movie year in terms of launching somebody, in terms of becoming a star. I mean, that is one of the greatest runs, especially in a single year that we will ever see. We're going to get into the quality of those three movies later on this year, but it's also the 25th anniversary of Man on the Moon and the 20th anniversary of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So, five notable Jim Carrey movies have anniversaries. But in terms of how it connects to speed, Jeff Daniels plays a character named Harry. In this movie, he also plays a character named Harry in Dumb and Dumber. If you look at Jeff Daniels' career, Dumb and Dumber, the first one and the sequel, they're completely different than anything else he's done, and I don't know what to think about it.
I don't know. I always remember in Arachnophobia. I love that movie to death, and John Candy's in that movie as well. But that movie scared the shit out of me. But it's also one of those movies like it's Trimmer, where it's like a fun kind of scary, where a lot of it's shot in the daytime, but it's spiders and shit. But Jeff Daniels sells the hell out of it, knowing that the premise is stupid, but he knows that he's in a horror movie, but he doesn't sell it like a B movie. He sells it like a serious kind of tone, and so the tone shifts. Like it does it really well, and that was way before this. So I guess people didn't really pick up on that performance at all. And I know that's kind of like a cult classic now, which is unfortunate. But that's kind of where I was introduced to Jeff Daniels, and then I saw him in Speed, and then some other things like Pleasantville and stuff like that. Like I saw him in like a lot of like stuff that I would rent or stuff that would play on at school. Like he was in a lot of safe movies, so to speak. Um, Especially Pleasantville. Like I think I saw that twice in school. But he's got a hell of a performance in that as well.
He is
So
a straight-laced guy in a suit in a lot of movies. I would say the platonic ideal of that is The Martian. I think that is, in terms of playing that type of role, that's
peak
probably
Jeff Daniels, I would say that's peak Jeff Daniels. Yeah, that's what he's kind of known for, right? And he fits that role. He's not an action hero, so I'm glad they took him off the table in terms of that right off the bat because clearly he doesn't have the fit for it. So they put a bullet in him the game, but they put him to the sideline. Unfortunately, he's killed, which I'm still mixed on. I don't know how I feel about that to this day. I feel like he had no reason to get killed, and they just kind of fridged him. But that's a whole other discussion on
I
fridging,
think
right?
that's something
Male
that's
or
very
female.
common in movies, especially at this point. I'm just glad it wasn't a black person or a woman. I guess that's part of the part that
Well, here's the
relieves
other
me.
thing. There were other people in that house too, other SWAT members. So there probably were people of
I
color
guess
and
so.
women, but they weren't on camera. But still, like, but I thought that was kind of weird. Like, I don't know if that was like it just felt like too easy. Whenever the villain like reveals his location kind of quickly or like his house kind of quickly, we see it in Seven, Silence of the Lambs. It's always a red herring. So I was really suspect when I saw the scene as a kid. Really, at first, like, come on, these really at the house right now. And then they do the blow up, and it's really crazy because that makes it seem like this dude's willing to blow up his own house just to get the money. So there's a lot of crazy things about that, and that's I was kind of mixed feelings because it's fridging 101, but I felt like he's a character that deserved to live towards the end, considering that he got shot in the leg as well by his friend, and there's no redemption for that. So that was always kind of my mixed feelings on that. So that's kind of one of the things that kind of hinders the script a little bit for me. But other than that, this movie feels like an 8 out of 10. Like it's a classic, but it's not like a Oscar kind of classic, but it's one of those fun movies you go back and look, and just every couple
I
of
mean,
years, every
it's a
year
top
maybe.
tier action movie. I would say. I mean, I don't know if it's in the top tier, but it's definitely up there. I mean, as in terms of watchability, this is one of the better. This is one of the better movies of this genre, and it's
Like, I would say this is
it's
better than any of the Fast movies, right? Like, I feel like it's better than those qualities for sure. Um, I mean, it's not
I mean,
Furiosa.
I think a part of it depends on what you're looking for. And I think if you're just looking, I think what makes Speed special is the fact that it works really well as a singular experience. Like you can go into this movie having never seen another movie, and you can still really appreciate it. And I just think the part of the issue with the Fast movies is like, look, I love Fast Five a lot, but unless you've kind of gone on the journey of the first four, it's really hard to appreciate. I kind of feel the same way about Bad Boys 4. Like Bad Boys 4, I really like it, but unless you've seen the third one, especially, I think it's a little hard to get into the fourth one. So that's part of what used to make summer movies special is the fact that they were these singular blockbuster experiences that you could just go in and appreciate. And I think that's what makes Speed so good. That's what I think makes Independence Day so good, which is kind of an action movie in its own right, but very very different in terms of tone and just believability and all that stuff. Like this is like there's some absurdity here, but like this is plausible. I feel like this is something that could happen. I mean, my God, there literally was a case going on in Los Angeles, not with a bus, but the O.J. Simpson case was literally happening 1 or 2 weeks before this movie came out. So that just shows you kind of where we were at as a culture. And again, you also have the Dennis Hopper of it all as well. Dennis Hopper has played this version, this kind of villain character. We've seen it in Blue Velvet. We definitely talked about it with Super Mario Brothers. I would have to say that this is a huge step up from Super Mario Brothers in terms of Dennis Hopper. This is probably right at about. I mean, I have very mixed feelings on Blue Velvet, but I would say in terms of performance, this is right about there.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's good. He's going to be remembered for this more so than Blue Velvet, I think, because Blue Velvet kind of hasn't aged as well as Speed has, so to speak. I think even more than Easy Rider, Speed has even aged better than that. I would say even Waterworld. So I think this is more of the top tier Dennis Hopper performances only because it's so memorable for the time and the way that his performance kind of sticked out and actually fit the tone of the movie. So I think that's pretty much wrapped up in our discussion. What's your final rating?
I would say a very solid 8 out of 10 for me. I just think this is a really, really solid action movie that hits all the right notes. I'm not sure that again, is it like would I put this with a Fury Road? No. I mean, I just think Fury Road, just in terms of spectacle, is incredible. I think there's some good spectacle, but I think this movie has a little bit more in terms of like the first and the third act, kind of getting away from the bus, which I think it works, but I think it does take away from some of the spectacle. So yeah, I'm at an 8 out of 10. This is definitely a top tier action movie, a great showcase for Keanu Reeves as well as Sandra Bullock.
And in the multiverse, this would have been like Die Hard 3, and Die Hard The Avengers would have been Die Hard 2, and I would have been totally cool with that
I
because
just
my feelings on
don't.
Die Hard 2.
I just don't know that Bruce will like. Who do you like? If who do you cast as the female bus driver? Like, I just don't know that it works that well with Bruce
Yeah,
Willis
I guess
in.
in that multiverse you change it to, some annoying comedian, and then that's where you get the comedy aspect of it all or
You
something like
probably get
that.
like Kevin Hart or some shit like that. It'd be terrible. Like it'd be The Rock, and The Rock
Lawrence,
would be
Martin
of a
Lawrence from
third.
1993, boom. You know what I'm saying? Like, the
I mean, the
multiverse
difference
really is
between
the
Martin
best.
Lawrence and Kevin Hart is that Martin Lawrence is actually funny. That the key difference. You got to understand that.
Oh, of course, because listen, I love Martin Lawrence in Bad Boy 4. I'm not gonna lie. I thought he was just so hilarious, but maybe it's an age thing.
I mean, he was definitely on one. Like he's like if this is an NBA game, he's like putting up 23s and he's hitting like 13 of them, 14 of them. Like he's 13 for 20 from the 3 point line. So he's jacking him up there, but he's definitely hitting more than he's missing.
That's Kobe Bryant in 2006 to 2007, folks. But yeah, so that kind of wraps up our discussion this week for this movie. But next week, we're back to baseball, and it's the fourth inning. And yeah, it's gonna be a league of their own. And I know this movie. Um, means a lot to me and Jerome. I watched this movie so many times on TV, it was ridiculous. It was always on Fox TV. But man, it really has like grown since then. And it's crazy to think that I keep thinking it's a cult classic, but it's not. This movie actually made a lot of money at the time, which
So
is
we made a ton of money, and it
yes, which goes to your
started.
argument that this was the beginning of the Tom Hanks kind of like run, so to speak, and it
This
wasn't big.
is the beginning of a conference run, 100%. Like Big was great, but then he went into a bad slump, and then this, like he got nominated for this, and then he won two in a row, and then the run continued. We're gonna go over Tom Hanks's entire run next week.
And we get to discuss Penny Marshall because I feel like she gets kind of lost in the shuffle in terms of really good directors. I think she's really good, and it's rare that we have a brother sister combo, not combo, but brother sister connection in films in terms
You
of
have a sister
directors.
sister combination, and you also, the funny thing is that this is the first of a number of movies where Bill Pullman is the poor schlub. This Sleepless in Seattle, While You Were Sleeping, quite a run for Bill Pullman as well. Only redeemed by being the president in Independence Day.
I mean, he still kind of has that feel of Independence Day in some scenes, but I get what you're
I
saying.
mean, it kind of, you're not wrong, but at least in Independence Day, he gets the speech, and that really kind of neutralizes any cuck things that may be going on.
For sure. So I'm really excited to talk about A League of Their Own next week, and it's going to be a fun discussion. So that kind of wraps up our discussion for this week, and we'll talk to you again soon.